Morning, everyone. I'm Martin. I've just finished my night shift at work. I work in the emergency services, so I do shifts. And I wanted to make sure that I came on because I've made this promise to myself that I'm going to do something every single day. Um, and it's going to be interesting, actually, I think, over time to see if I actually am able to maintain this. I think it's great whenever you actually make a commitment to do something over a period of time. Uh, it's it's such a great achievement when you're able to finish and achieve it. I remember the last time I really thought about this was when I was doing the 75 hard challenge, which, if you don't know, it's 75 days of consecutive things which you have to do, 2 workouts a day. One of them has to be outside, spaced 3 hours apart, minimum of 45 minutes. You have to drink a certain amount of water. You have to keep to a pretty strict nutrition and diet regime. You have to read 10 pages of a book that in some way is helpful. And if you miss a day, you have to go back to day one again. So 75 consecutive days. And what I like about doing something like that, or indeed when I would be training for whether that be for a competition or something else, is when you do something long enough, you allow every single version of yourself at some point to pop up, and some that are helpful and some that do their best to try and steer you off course. You have the cynical version of yourself, you have the sort of despair version of yourself. Pretty much everything at some point will show up in that 75 days. And it's finding the primary strategy that's going to bat those away and say, I know you, and being able to disassociate from it and say, I see what you're doing there, but I'm going to do it. And also, actually, having said that, not just that lots of different versions of you show up in that 75 days, but also people close to you and their interpretation of what you're doing, and that changes. I think I feel really sorry for my other half, Hannah, because she said that the 75 hard challenge was even worse for her because she just had to put up with me moaning about it. But being able to maintain something over a period of time, and being able to recognise and being switched on to the things which might pull you off track. And I quite like that idea. In the self-defense community, we talk a lot about being switched on, being aware of your environment. I remember back in the 90s, Jeff Thompson was one of the first people to really bring the idea of real valid functional self-defense and making it work for whatever martial art that you actually do. And he would speak about how most people are switched off, unaware of their environment, in what he would refer to as code white. So when all of a sudden something did happen and you've got this massive burst of adrenaline, it almost feels like it came out of the blue, and this fear of adrenaline you mistake for terror. You're frozen to the spot, you're unable to act, or even worse, before you even know it, someone's hit you and you're kind of waking up 5 minutes later wondering what happened. So being switched on, and then being able to take that concept of being switched on and aware and broaden it out. So it's not just really in terms of being switched on to your environment for the means of self-defense, but just kind of like being acutely aware of the things in your life which bump you off track, which move you into a different direction. Obviously, got the picture behind me of Miyamoto Musashi, and he still speaks to me. His book of the Five Rings I really do recommend. But he speaks that there's two rhythms. There's two almost energies to be aware of in every moment. There's a rhythm of flourishing and harmony, and there's a rhythm of decay. And the key is to try and notice in every decision that you make, what rhythm are you connecting to? And I like that, and it's this kind of theme of any small decision that you make in and of itself make no difference, but if you keep on making that same decision over time, it does make a difference. And I definitely sometimes fall into the trap of finding myself losing that awareness and finding that I'm kind of in a place where I don't want to be, and then I kind of feel guilty about it because I think, man, I was in such a good place. What's wrong with me? Why am I not doing the things that I need to do? It's quite funny, actually. It's very much in terms of this awareness and finding yourself in a place you don't want to be, and then looking back at a different version of yourself which is feeling really different. I relate a lot of these things to martial arts and to the experiences of martial arts, because I find that that's where I've found a lot of my truths. So it's kind of a place I can kind of speak from that makes sense. But I think it's always cool when you can take something and give that meaning outside of the specific thing which you do. And I always kind of equate it to, sometimes if you're having like a really good spar and everything's going really, really well, you're moving great, you're in that beautiful flow state, and you're loving it, things are coming together, you're feeling good, you're also aware that the person that you're sparring or fighting is aware that you're in that great place, and you feel great. And then something might happen, you might make a mistake, or they may catch you with a really good shot, you may lose your balance, whatever it actually is, and you find yourself all of a sudden on the floor with someone on top of you, and they're pinning you, and they know that this is your moment, and you're kind of aware of this sort of this want and this desire to kind of panic and freak out, which is the worst thing which you can do. You know, sometimes you have to just breathe and see the position that you're in, but you also have to understand the reality, and the reality is that you of 2 minutes ago that was standing and moving around and feeling great, you're not getting back to that person in an instant. That person is on top of you, and if you want to be able to get back to that former version of yourself, then it's a series of incremental steps that you have to take to be able to work your way to a better place. My friend always refers to it as, start by building a base. You need to build a base. So you could get in the specifics of what that might look like from a martial art point of view, in terms of starting to build some leverage, space to move, getting an elbow under you, creating some space, hips, that kind of thing. But I just find that works in general as well. Sometimes if I'm just kind of I'm a little bit mentally down, I'm not feeling it, or whatever it actually is, I might look back at a former version of me from 1 or 2 days ago and think, what's wrong with me? I was in a really cool place, a really good kind of mental philosophy, that's going on. And the same reality is in this kind of feeling, I need to build a base. What's my series of steps that is going to make me feel better and be able to make me function more and get the things done that I want to do. The other thing also, much like fighting, is when you're caught and someone's on top of you and throwing punches down at you, you're not necessarily going to come up with new and interesting ways in that moment. You kind of have to pre-train and know what you're doing. And that's the same for me in life. I need to recognize when I'm maybe not in my most functional place, and not just that, I need to know, well, what's the things which are going to get me out of that? Because we've got our subconscious working against us, and I find that we've got bits that work for us and bits that work against us. And much like the bits that work for us, unfortunately, the things inside which work against us knows us really well, because they've lived their whole life with us and know how to muck you up by adding little bits of cynicism or doubt or despair or weakness or whatever it actually is. So there's a lot that is kind of working against us. So I need to know what are the things which make me feel better. For me, right away, funnily enough, much like when I'm feeling it in a fight, it's posture. So I know it starts with me using my body, using my physiology to take my psychology to a better place. So putting my shoulders back, concentrating on the things I can control, which is my breathing. Am I breathing through my belly, or am I breathing through my chest? That's the first thing which I'll look at doing. Music is another really big one for me. So if I'm kind of like, I'm at home and I know I'm feeling a little bit dead, shoulders back, get some music on, get breathing, get myself moving around a little bit. These aren't magic steps which are going to get me back to where I am, but they're the first steps. They're the things which are initially building a base for me. So what are your steps, I guess? Yeah, what's the things which you do that it's able to overcome that cynical version of you that's like, oh, come on, mate, what are you doing here? What are the things, that help? Definitely recommend looking at ways where you can use your physiology to lead your brain into a better place. So Eckhart Tolle says that when you have a problem on the level of mind, you can't use the level of mind a lot of the time to overcome that problem. You need something different. So he talked a lot about being present, being in the moment, and I look at that also of being switched on, being aware, concentrating on your breathing. And there's no right or wrong answer. It's, well, what are the things which work for you that start you to be able to build that base and get yourself step by step incrementally into that slightly better place. And sometimes you can do it in a moment, sometimes it might take a few hours, and sometimes it might just mean you looking after yourself that day and getting a good night's sleep. And another thing which really helps for me as well is I don't know about you, but I tend to attach a lot of guilt. I used to tend to attach a lot of guilt when I wasn't functioning at my best, or I would have a really, really bad day. And sometimes what would happen is, if I knew I wanted to do a certain amount of things, or whether that be exercise or anything else, and then the thought of actually doing it and what I needed to do would stop me from doing it entirely. I got this actually from Darren Brown, and he said, in those situations, you need to aim for good enough. Aim to do something. What's good enough? What's not necessarily, it's not necessarily perfect to what you had planned, but you can look back and go, do you know what? I was struggling, but that was good enough. I had it this morning. A colleague and I, we just went into to the gym, and we just did sets of pull-ups. Not to failure. We were chatting. We were having a coffee when we did it. We got a little bit done because obviously we were coming off of shift. I wasn't going to do what I intended to do, which was kind of like a really big workout. But I didn't beat myself up about it. I was happy that I overcame that voice that was actually saying, "Look, mate, you should just chill." And I went for good enough. Did a short session. My pull-ups I didn't do to failure, which is something I really recommend to people if you're looking at exercising and you want to do something where you're not necessarily feeling it. Sometimes doing something to failure, I don't know, for me, and once again, it's, truth is a pathless land. For me, I find if I'm doing something fitness-wise and trying to go and push to failure, there's too many things I'm overcoming, and it tends to either burn me out or something goes pitting, and I injure myself. So I just aim for really good form. I tell myself what a good boy I am for doing it, and I use the concept of good enough. Anyway, that's like a ramble of a load of just sort of like mad stuff. But look, I'm in video 2 of getting 100 bad videos out before I do a decent one. So hopefully Masashi will be proud of me, that if I break it down to what did I just do then, was it something which connected me to harmony, or was it something which connected me to decay? I think at least this was something which was good energy. So hope you all have a good day. See you soon.